garage of Mr. Flea, and we're going to have a look at the 1200 Bandit project. As you can see, she's had pretty much a hard life. So it's lived outside. She's actually well weathered. I'll give you a good look around it actually another time in the daylight. But it's the full fairing version, the S version. She's done about 17,000 miles. It's got the extras on it. It's got the actual colour-coded side lowers on there. Standard exhaust, but it's got an aftermarket end cam. It's a blue flame one. It's road legal, but it does sound quite nice. And you can see that all the engine casings are all fitted. Bodywork's not bad condition, but it's okay. And first thing we're going to do, we're just going to have a look around the bike. We're going to service the bike because I know absolutely nothing about the bike. There's no history with the bike, as it is when you get a nice cheap winter hack, because this is my new winter hack, so it's sort of like a project that's I'm going to do bits and bobs on it, but I'm also riding it at the same time. So first on the list, we're going to do an oil and filter change. We're going to clean the chain and sprockets. They do look quite recent, not bad at all. But in my box of bits, I've got numerous parts for the Bandit. You know, it's quite a regular bike I've always had. I found an actual 14-tooth front sprocket, so I'm going to give this one a good clean, and I'm going to replace the standard's 15. I'm going to replace it with a 14. Just it gives it a bit more mid-range and lets it wheel a little bit better. But I'm going to keep the stock rear sprocket for now. So 2 jobs on the list today. That's clean the chain, give it a really damn good clean, replace the front sprocket, 14-tooth one, adjust the rear chain, get it the correct tension and everything, and then we're going to move on to the oil and filter change. So like I say, this is sort of like a rideable project, so I'll be doing bits and bobs to it. Not too sure yet if I'm going to be losing the fairing. Possibly might turn it into a Street Fighter style. It has bar risers on. These are the standard bars though, hate them. Actually it feels like your arms are pulling in on them, so I'm going to go for the good old Rentals I think. Don't know if I'm going to go for 28mm or the 22mm, I'll decide that later. I'm not too sure I'm keeping this because basically it's going to be a Sunday rip and sort of like tan bike at the same time, so let's see where it goes. But for now, let's crack on with those things I just mentioned. Okay, like I said, first job, we're going to clean the chain. I've got a little setup here. I've just got an oil drip tray. You don't have to have that. You could have rags down or a bit of a towel or anything. Nice bit of cardboard. Just got an old cereal carton there. That's just to put in front of the chain. I've got a few different things we can clean the chain with to get all the grime out and everything. Bit of WD-40. Actually, I've got some Motul chain clean that was in a kit with a special type of brush. Pretty handy for cleaning all around the chain in one sort of like motion. You know, real stiff stipple type brush there. That'll let me clean around that front sprocket I was on about. So have we got this set up there? You can actually we're going to spray the chain first with WD, just rotate it. Just make sure this card's here so it don't spray actually onto the chain, onto the tyre, sorry, and just work his way around, and then we'll get the brush in there and give it a good scrub. So a little WD, and just all around the chain. Ideally, you could put a little piece of tape on the actual chain, you know, so you know what sort of like one revolution's been. Or you can just do what I do, is just look at the actual main master link, so you know when that goes around, you've done a full turn. So there it is, nice and lubed. I'm going to get the brush in there and start to give it a good scrub. Like I say, this will actually do both sides. Just work around the chain. There's my master link there, look. So just started there, and when I get all the way back round, just steadily work all the way around. So this will clean the underneath of the chain, 2 sides, and then it just leaves the actual top section just to clean through. You can also use a toothbrush as well at the same time, if you've not got one of these brushes, but they are readily available on good old eBay, and most bike shops stock them as well. Nice and easy. You're supposed to actually clean your chain, or lube it at least every 600 miles. So with the salting that down at the moment, it's better to do it more regular than anything. So that's one revolution. Back to there again. I mean, just look at the grime that's coming out there. You know what I mean? So you can actually get your good old WD. I normally buy this WD in 5 litres containers. It works out 22, 23 quid, something like that. You just keep topping it up. A cheaper way of doing it. Just make sure you keep your fingers out of the way of the chain. Ideally, you should be going in reverse, sort of like that. And that's letting it all flush through down the bottom. And what I like to do then, I like to get a old t-shirt, something that you don't care about anymore, and just give it a good old scrubbing. T-shirt there, there's an old t-shirt. What I like to do is grab the chain and then work in reverse, so your fingers are actually not in line with the sprocket. Obviously you don't want to go the other way, because you're going to cause yourself some damage. Just work round. And look at that. Just take this out of the way. You can actually grab on the full lot. Obviously, my hand's well out of the way. Just rotating the back wheel. And you can just see how that chain's come up already. If you want, you can do it in sections like this. Keep rotating. That way you're going to give it a right good clean. Fresh piece of rag every time. Just slowly work your way around. At this point, I'm going to see if I can get to that front sprocket. Ideally, hopefully, I don't have to take the side of the fairing off, but if I do, I do. If not, I'm just going to see if I can get in there without doing that. Hopefully there should be a bit of clearance to get the little side casing off, so gives me access to that front sprocket. That's that done. Let's move on. I've actually took all the fairing off and whatnot. I think I'm going to leave the fairing off for now anyway, because I've still got to do the oil filter and the oil change, so I need access to that because that is under there. So for now, obviously I'm working on the sprocket section, so I'll just give a quick clean around, fairings off. So what I've got to do now, well, just a quick tip, took a centre punch and just marked the shaft with a little centre punch mark in line with the actual slot on the actual gear change connection, just so when you realign it, you know that lines up with that. Job's a good one. Now I'm just going to crack these bolts and expose the actual sprocket. Okay, I've done all the bolts. I've put them in actual order as I've took them out, so I can put them back in. But when I took this off, my word was this absolutely caked. Look at all that's just come out there. Unbelievable. So I've used a bit of WD, a bit of white spirit, a bit of paraffin, and a stiff oven brush I found in the missus's oven cleaning kit. But you can use any brush. Just give it a good clean. Got all the actual, it's all the actual chain lube, the old actual chain lube. That's all gone. So yeah, cleaned all around the back of this as well, as you can see. And now I can finally start to disassemble. There's a sprocket. You need to undo this Allen key here, and then you'll just see a washer just there. You can see that. Knock that over with a drift or a little chisel and hammer, and then you can release this nut there. I've got a cordless impact wrench that'll definitely undo this, but like I say, if you do struggle, you can do it with a power bar. Also leave it in gear and get somebody to stand on the back brake also, that'll help, and you can lever these off. Okay guys, just to recap, she's in first gear. I loosen this off by pressing the brake and whatnot. That comes off pretty easy. So then you've got to undo the main sprocket nut. That's a 32mm nut, so that's how, there you go. Take that off first. I needed the impact wrench on this. It was quite bloody stubborn, and just to make sure it moved, I think you can see a little white mark there that I put on, just so that I knew it was moving. You can do this with a power bar and get a pal to step on the back brake, and you can break the nut like that, but I used the power wrench. This one was a particularly stubborn one, but yeah, eventually it did go. So literally it's that, take those off. You'll have a washer that knocks over the back. You can see this has been used quite a few times. Where you bend that over and it locates on the flat side of the nut, and that acts as a locking washer. That's a bit stiff. Like I say, I'm replacing the 14 tooth sprocket. Standard's 15, gives them a bit more mid-range, and lets me do easier wheelies. But normally you'd replace them as a set. That's chain front and rear sprocket, but like I say, there's plenty of life in this chain yet. So this socket I found in a box of spares is absolutely brand new. It's a rental one, so I'm going to put that on. Okay, to loosen the wheel, pull it forward. It's a 24mm nut on the back there, and then you've got the locking nut, which is a 12mm, and the adjuster bolt itself, that's 10mm. So we're going to undo this, take some tension out, and then undo the locking nuts both sides, wind this forward. That will give me some slack on the chain, and then I can pull the sprocket off the front and change it. Like I say, 24mm socket. I'm using a power bar, and this is actually done up to 100 Newton meters. That's when you come to retighten it. Undo this one. Don't need to do it all the way, and then you can actually just knock the axle through, just to take the tension off these adjuster blocks, and then 12mm spanner in the front, and the locking nuts. Just wind them forward like that, opposite side. Two. And then just take some tension off the back block adjusters with the actual 10mm adjusting bolt. Take them forward like that. A little bit of a gap there. We are going to retension this after anyway, because it's the wheel's going to come back considerably more than the standard sprocket, because we're losing one tooth off the front. I've done that, just a little tap, and you can see it pushed it forward. Chain's now slack. I can take the front sprocket off. Okay, I'll put the front end, the slack's taken off there. You can just pull that. You can actually take this out, just get it out of your way. That's for your clutch mechanism. No oil will come out of there, so that'll be fine. Just make sure you clean it before you put it back in. And then you can pull the sprocket off the front, like so. A little bit of a fiddle. There you go. That's the standard sprocket off. Okay, this is a sprocket I found. and my spares. It's made by Renthal, brand new one, 14 tooth one. So it's a reverse of what we just did. You can actually pull it forward, feed it into the chain as you go, and you can just slightly turn it. There you go, job's a good one. Simple. Now let's replace the actual washer. I mean, ideally this has been used a couple of times, so I'm going to be using a fresh side. You really should replace that. So it's this first, then the big 32mm nut, and then this section on the end, followed by your Allen key. So this big nut is done up to 115 Newton meters, and then this little tiny 8mm Allen bolt, that's done up to 20 Newton meters. So the big nut, 115 Newton meters, and this small Allen bolt, 20 Newton meters. Okay, as you can see, we're fully assembled there. What I did first off, before we put the actual speed sensor and M8 nut on, was actually started to pre-bend this washer over. You can do that just with a pair of pliers, put it in the vise or whatever, and just bend the end over just slightly so it's not completely flat. Put the bolt on, torque it up as I did, like say 150 Newton meters for that. If you still can't get behind that washer, I mean, it's handy that I've changed to the actual Renthal one, because they've actually got a recess in there. But most are sort of like a flat metal sprocket, so it's really hard to get behind the back. You know, there's not much room. But with these, there is a bit of leeway behind the back of that. What I did, once obviously I'd pre-bent it over, you can just get a flat blade screwdriver, sort of like behind, and manually just pull it forward like that, just slightly. Once it's then started off enough for you, you can then get a pair of more grips. Obviously this nut won't be in. Get it to the centre of the sprocket and just pull the actual washer forward just enough so that you can get the drift in with the hammer. You can get the angle there, look, and flatten that against the actual nut, and that's job done. This one, obviously, speed sensor goes on, the M8, and then that's torqued up to 20 Newton meters. Here we go, 20 Newton meters, and then it's just assemble in reverse. Get this actual side casing on, reline this back up again. We already did the pre-mark, remember, so we can line that back up, then move on to the back end and tension the chain. Okay, moving on to the back end. Just a quick note, I've not actually had this wheel off since I've owned the bike. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the wheel off, and then I'm going to inspect the actual brake pads in the bottom there, see how they are. Maybe just redress the actual pads, get flat sandpaper, and just have a general inspection of what we got there and lube some stuff up, and then we'll get on to adjusting the chain.